one of the world's biggest oil powers, is losing the ability to process its own black gold. In the early hours of August 3rd, 2025, while most people were asleep, something extraordinary happened in the skies over Russia. It wasn't hypersonic missiles or military satellites crossing Russian territory. It was small mechanical ghosts flying in perfect formation through the darkness, carrying the power to shake an empire built on oil and gas. Sochi, the city that once hosted the whole world for the 2014 Winter Olympics, woke up to a different kind of spectacle: 50-meter-high flames dancing against the sky. But I ask you, how is it possible that devices costing less than a used car are causing more economic damage than decades of international sanctions? And what does this mean for the future of a country that depends completely on its ability to extract, process, and sell energy to the world? These are the questions we'll answer today. Get ready to discover how a silent revolution is rewriting the rules of global power, one attack at a time. To understand the magnitude of what's happening, we need to realize that we're witnessing a military revolution in real time. Since early 2024, Ukraine developed and deployed a strategy many experts thought was impossible: using low-cost unmanned devices to systematically attack their adversaries' energy infrastructure, causing economic damage that rivals decades of international sanctions. The strategy is elegant in its simplicity and devastating in execution. While traditional missiles cost millions of dollars and can be intercepted by conventional defense systems, these new unmanned aerial systems cost a fraction of that and operate completely differently. They don't follow predictable ballistic paths, nor emit the thermal signatures typical of conventional weapons. Instead, they fly low, navigate autonomously, and attack in coordinated waves that saturate enemy defenses. But let's talk concrete data that shows the scale of this campaign. According to independent analysis from the organization Medusa, at least 81 direct attacks on Russian oil facilities were documented in 2024 alone. To put that in perspective, that's an average of more than 6 attacks per month, each targeting specific strategic sites, fueling both the civilian economy and the military effort. The cumulative impact of these attacks is impressive. Official Russian data, cited by Reuters and confirmed by NATO sources, indicates that the country's oil refining capacity was reduced by about 15% during 2024. This forced the Russian government to take an unprecedented step. In March 2024, Moscow completely banned gasoline exports to protect the domestic market from increasingly evident shortage. According to Rostat, Russia's official statistics agency, the attacks reduced annual gasoline production by 14.3% and diesel production by 7%. These numbers aren't just abstract stats. They represent the ability to keep military vehicles running, fuel combat aircraft, and sustain the logistics of a conflict spanning thousands of kilometers. What makes this campaign particularly fascinating from a technological standpoint is how it represents a natural evolution in the democratization of military technology. The systems used aren't super-secret weapons developed in ultra-secret labs. They are essentially evolutions of commercial tech: recreational drone motors, commercial GPS navigation systems, high-definition cameras, and processors found in smartphones. The real innovation lies in how these components are integrated and coordinated. Military intelligence reports cited by the Atlantic Council describe the development of autonomous mother platforms capable of carrying multiple smaller devices. These platforms operate like digital motherships, launching their offspring in complex formations, attacking targets from multiple directions and altitudes simultaneously. The most revolutionary aspect of these systems is their autonomous operation. Using embedded artificial intelligence algorithms, each unit can recalculate its route in real time, avoid unmapped obstacles, and even select alternative targets if the primary objective becomes inaccessible. This means that even if communication with command is lost, the mission can continue. The most recent attack on Sochi provides a perfect case study of how these operations are conducted. The city, located on the Black Sea coast, hosts a Rosneft storage terminal that serves as a logistics hub for military bases and refineries in the region. The target choice wasn't random. It's a critical node in the supply chain connecting Russian oil production to its military operations. The attack happened during the early hours of Sunday, when traditional air defense activity typically drops and radar coverage can have blind spots. The devices flew low over the Black Sea, a route minimizing detection by ground radar systems and exploiting the fact that water surfaces interfere with many types of electronic sensors. By the time the first signs of the attack were detected, it was already too late. Flames quickly spread through the storage complex, creating a black smoke cloud visible kilometers away. More than 120 firefighters were mobilized to fight the blaze, but the damage was already done. Not just in lost fuel, but also in the psychological message sent. No place was safe, no matter how far from the front line. But to understand why these attacks are so effective, we need to grasp the political economy of Russian oil. The energy sector isn't just an industry. It's literally the economic heart of the country. About 40% of the Russian federal government's revenues come directly from energy exports, and that percentage rises significantly when considering taxes and fees charged to companies in the sector. Each refinery attack represents not only lost production capacity, but also a critical node in a complex logistics network. When the Novo-Kuybyshev refinery was hit in August 2025, for example, the impact spread far beyond the facility itself. That specific refinery processes crude oil, supplying not only civilian markets, but also military installations within hundreds of kilometers. The most sophisticated aspect of this strategy is how it exploits the specific economic vulnerabilities of the Russian economy. Unlike countries with diversified economies, Russia has developed an extreme structural dependence on its energy exports. This means every barrel of oil that can't be processed or every ton of fuel that can't be produced has a multiplying effect on the overall economy. Data from the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace shows that, although the Russian oil sector showed some initial resilience, the cumulative attacks began producing structural effects. Companies like Gazprom reported revenue drops of 41% and sales profit declines of 71% in 2023, a trend that worsened with increased attacks in 2024. What makes this campaign particularly interesting to study is how it represents an ongoing evolutionary process. As Russian defense systems adapt to a threat, attackers develop new tactics to overcome it. It's like watching a high-speed chess game, where every move forces a response that in turn generates a counter-response. Initially, the attacks followed relatively simple patterns, individual devices flying direct routes to specific targets. Russian defenses quickly adapted, installing electronic jamming systems and increasing radar coverage on critical facilities. The Ukrainian response was just as swift, developing coordinated multi-wave attacks. These new tactics work in layers. The first wave of devices flies at high altitude, forcing defense systems to reveal positions and expend intercepting ammunition. The second wave operates at low altitude, using terrain to avoid detection until the last moment. The third wave, often the most destructive, strikes while defensive systems are reloading or recalibrating. Military intelligence sources cited by Frontelligence Insight describe growing sophistication in these operations. Between September 2024 and February 2025, there was an increase not only in attack frequency, but also in the variety of systems used and the complexity of attack formations. But while it's tempting to focus only on the technological and strategic aspects of this campaign, we can't ignore its human impact. Cities like Sochi and Voronezh, once relatively isolated from the conflict, now face a completely different reality. Local residents report on social media a fundamental shift in these cities' atmosphere. The sound of emergency sirens, once rare, has become part of everyday background noise. Black smoke columns on the horizon, distant explosions at night, and constant movement of emergency vehicles have created a sense of vulnerability permeating daily life. This psychological transformation is perhaps as important as the material damage caused. For decades, the Russian population lived with the feeling that their vast geography protected them from external conflicts. The idea that flying systems the size of small cars could cross that vastness and strike targets inside Russia was simply unthinkable for most people. Reports shared on digital platforms paint a picture of communities trying to adapt to a new reality. Parents explaining to children why windows shake at night, refinery workers developing new evacuation protocols, and local authorities trying to balance the need to inform the population with Moscow's pressure to minimize appearances of vulnerability. A crucial aspect of this campaign, often overlooked, is how it also represents a sophisticated form of information warfare. Every successful attack doesn't just cause physical damage, but also generates waves of informational impact spreading far beyond the attack site. Russian authorities find themselves in an extremely difficult communication position. Admitting the real extent of the attacks would mean acknowledging vulnerabilities they'd rather keep hidden. Denying the attacks outright becomes impossible when satellite images and witness videos circulate freely online. The official strategy has been to classify many of these incidents as maintenance accidents or technical failures. However, this narrative becomes increasingly hard to sustain as independent media outlets like Al Jazeera, Reuters, and Kyiv Independent publish high-resolution satellite images clearly showing damage patterns consistent with coordinated attacks. This dynamic creates what communication experts call a credibility gap. The more official explanations diverge from the available visual evidence, the more local populations lose trust in the government narrative. This, in turn, amplifies the psychological impact of the attacks beyond their direct material effect. To fully grasp the meaning of this campaign, we need to place it in a broader geopolitical context. We're witnessing not just a new way of conducting military operations, but also a practical demonstration of how democratized technologies can fundamentally alter the balance of power between nations. The most disturbing aspect for international security analysts is how this campaign shows traditional military advantages. Geography, population, defense budget can be neutralized by smart applications of asymmetric technology. A country with a fraction of its adversary's military budget is causing significant strategic damage, using systems costing a tiny fraction of what a conventional cruise missile would. While Western sanctions keep trying to limit Russia's energy export revenues, strategic clients like India and China keep buying discounted Russian oil. However, as foreign policy notes, Ukraine's strategy aims to do with explosives what 2 years of Western sanctions haven't fully achieved: drastically reduce Russia's ability to generate revenue from its energy exports. Data from the Center for Eastern Studies shows that during the first 4 months of 2024, Ukrainian forces attacked over a dozen refineries, causing varying degrees of damage to 8 of them. As a result, Russian plants temporarily shut down part of their processing capacity, leading to domestic fuel shortages and price increases. What may be most significant about this campaign is how it offers a glimpse into the future of military autonomy. Ukrainian research teams are developing next-gen systems that operate with even higher levels of independence. These prototypes use mesh networks and low-orbit satellite communications to coordinate operations in real time, even when isolated from traditional command centers. This evolution raises deep questions about the nature of military decision-making in the 21st century. We're rapidly approaching a point where autonomous machines will be able to identify, prioritize, and attack targets without direct human intervention. The ethical and strategic implications of this transition are huge and still being understood by international policymakers. Developing truly autonomous systems also represents a qualitative leap in the democratization of military capability. If small devices can operate independently for extended periods, it means military operations can be conducted with far less support infrastructure than traditionally required. What we're witnessing isn't simply a new military tactic, but the birth of a new era in warfare. The flames lighting Sochi's horizon aren't just burning fuel. They're a symbol of a fundamental transformation in the nature of military power in the 21st century. This transformation raises deep questions that democratic societies worldwide will need to face in the coming years. How do we regulate the development of lethal autonomous systems? How do we maintain meaningful human control over life and death decisions when machines can process information and react far faster than human operators? How do we protect critical infrastructure in a world where small devices can cause strategic damage? The answers to these questions will determine not just the outcome of specific conflicts, but also how societies organize and protect themselves in the era of artificial autonomy. The future arrived sooner than we expected, carried not in intercontinental missiles, but in small flying devices that cost less than a used car and operate with the precision of digital surgeons. As we watch this revolution unfold in real time, one question echoes with growing urgency. Are we ready for a world where bytes and batteries can decide the fate of nations? The answer to that question may very well define the trajectory of global security for decades to come. What do you think about these transformations? How should democratic societies prepare for this new reality? Share your thoughts in the comments and keep following our analysis of the evolution of modern conflicts. If this deep dive into the 21st century military revolution was helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming videos about the future of international security.